Hello, everyone. Welcome into our YouTube channel. Today, we are talking about the release 0.8.0-beta, which we sent out this release this week. And today, we have Tyler, the co-founder of Clockwork Labs, with us today. And we will be going over the release notes. So I guess to kind of like start off talking about the release notes, is there anything about this release that you think that was like particularly interesting, or like any major things that we've added since 0.7.3?
Yeah, so we've got a couple things down in the highlights here. The most important things that we were working on this release are, I would say, both the metrics tracking and our benchmarking and multi-column index support. So we have set ourselves up for the next release to be able to look at what the performance characteristics of SpacetimeDB are, and then provide benchmarks for everyone. So right now, we're working on some pretty significant internal changes. Basically, in this month, we focused on measuring, and now that we've measured, we've identified the things we need to change. In the next month, we're going to change those things, and then I'd like to release a suite of benchmark results that give people a sense of, what types of things can they build with this platform.
Yeah, we're here with the next big release of SpacetimeDB 0.8.0. Very cool. We've merged in more than 70 new PRs since v0.7.3, and we're super excited to share all the new stuff. Very, very cool. As a reminder, you can upgrade from v0.7.3 with Spacetime Upgrade. Please note that our ABI has changed with this release, so you will therefore need to rebuild your modules. Along those lines as well, if you have a local database for Spacetime, you'll probably have to clear that in order to get your local Spacetime working again, just because the database itself is no longer compatible.
That's right. And just a reminder for everyone, these ABI incompatibilities, we are working towards stability with the mainnet release, and with the mainnet release, those will not happen anymore. So either the ABI will not change, or we'll provide a migration path for you to be able to migrate your old modules over to the new version of SpacetimeDB.
So highlights for this release. So the most impactful changes in this release are new performance metrics tracking for your modules on Testnet.
In the 0.8.0 release, we added a new metrics page. The purpose of adding this page was actually twofold. One, it was just as we are developing Bitcraft, our MMORPG on top of SpacetimeDB, we need to be able to measure the performance characteristics of different transactions in the game to find out how we can improve our performance and get to the number of concurrently connected users that we need to be able to run the game. Also, we wanted to provide to our clients a way for them to really dig into the performance of their modules and understand which of their functions are efficient and which are not. Total duration per second. This is in each second, what is the total amount of time spent doing anything? So that is to say, in many games, you're gonna be calling a bunch of reducers every second. So for example, if you have something running 20 times a second, I suppose we could look at this with a circle game, for example. But if you have reducers running every second, this is out of 100. Let's just say out of 1 second, what percentage of that, in a sense, was spent doing anything? So this particular case, out of 1 second, 10 microseconds was spent doing something. So obviously this particular module doesn't really do very much, but that's the idea there. Total CPU time, by contrast. So what's the difference between total transaction duration and total CPU time? So when a transaction happens, there is the potential to be waiting on locks, to be trying to get a hold of resources and so forth. CPU time does not include any of that time. So it is just the time that your module is executing. But we got a couple of them. We've got internal, SQL, reducer, subscribe, and update. So reducer is anytime you run a module function. Internal is basically a transaction we need to do internally for maybe metrics reasons or whatever it is that we're actually executing. SQL is when you execute an initial SQL query, so like when you begin a transaction. And subscribe is any incremental SQL query that's evaluated to update all the connected clients. And then update, I don't recall exactly what that one is, to be honest. That must be presumably like an internal one that is actually updating something. I'm not familiar with that one at the moment. But that is what these do, and it helps you see, like, okay, how much of my time am I spent just replying to or broadcasting out changes that have happened to the database versus how much time am I spending actually executing my reducer functions.
So this is like a huge reason, in my opinion, to deploy your module to testnet, just so you can see the data, right? Like you get all of this data right now by default when you just deploy. You can pull this up for any module. All you have to do is go spacetimedb.com/dashboard and then put your module name in here, and you can look at the dashboard for any module, right, Tyler?
That is correct. Yes. Yeah. So for storage metrics, you just get an idea of like, okay, how much data am I actually taking up here? So if you look at our write ahead log size, could you take a look at that?
273 bytes.
So 273 bytes. So this database is taking up 273 bytes on disk. That's obviously not much. And module logs is how much you're actually writing. So in this case, it would be saying hello to all the names. Can you highlight that as well, John?
Sorry, which one specifically? I was reading the comment. Module logs, yeah. Here is 3.4.
We have 4 kilobytes of module logs because we're writing text over and over to our logs.
Is anyone able to run SQL queries in the Grafana? If you can connect to anyone's instance and run queries, it seems like it could leak data.
And the answer right now is that you can certainly run SQL queries on arbitrary modules. And the way that this is going to be resolved, and may already be resolved, is that we will have both table level, column level, and row level permissions on the data. So you can currently, if you have a private table, which you can create by putting an underscore, we're going to move that into an attribute. But if you do that right now, then someone will not be able to query that table, and they'll get a 401 error. Eventually, we're going to also add row level security, so you can say, hey, these identities should be able to see specifically these rows. So scroll down a little bit more, and I'm going to talk about the reducer queue length. So the reducer queue length is basically how long between, well, no, let me explain. So we schedule a reducer to run at a particular time. That reducer should immediately run. Right now, we queue them if they need to wait. So the queue length is basically saying, how long is the line before this thing is actually going to run? You want this to be 0 at all times. In fact, it is 0 in this case. It seems that at some point in time, it briefly hit 1 and then went back down to 0, which makes sense. So if you run two things at the same time, this will happen. The wait time for P99, P90, and average. So the wait time means on average, or in the 99th percentile, or so forth, how long did any reducer wait to be called after it was meant to be scheduled? So the idea here is if you run two things at the same time and one has to wait for the other one to finish, then there will be some wait time. As you can see, we have no data here, meaning that none of the reducers waited any time to be executed against the database.
Right. Excellent. So then the next section we have here is database metrics.
Yep. So these are some just high-level things like the number of connected clients, the number of rows that we fetched per second. So you can see it's pretty small. And you can see the queries from which they took. So we had select star from. You can see that we had say hello, pull some things from table 6, I think it was, which makes sense. Basically, we're getting all the names out of the table, and we're, in this case, writing them to the logs. Index key scan. So in this case, this is for things that are indexed. What are we looking up? And you can see we did some index key scanning at the very beginning. Table 0 is actually the set of tables in the database. So in this case, we're just looking up tables. This was when we first instantiated the module at the very, very, very beginning. Index seeks, this is just us looking up things in an index.
This is the module dashboard. This is available now from 0.8.0 forward. This was not available before, but you can now go to the dashboard for your module. Even if you did not publish your module via the website, you still can pull up your module on the dashboard and look at the metrics. So it's very cool. So if you have something that you're developing like locally on your machine and you push it to testnet and you're playing around with it, you can actually come in here and see, oh, maybe why is my module running slowly? Or, oh, how much data am I using on disk? Or all of those things are available here in the dashboard now as of 0.8.0, which is very cool. So the next item on the list here that we have is stability and correctness improvements to the persistent storage.
Yeah, so we've just been working on this gets pretty into the weeds, but as we're moving towards the release of SpacetimeDB, we're going to be making several changes to the stability and correctness situation with persistent storage. For those of you who don't know, in databases, it's incredibly important that your data on disk does not get corrupted in any way or have any issues, or that you provide the durability guarantees that you intend. And that's a very challenging thing to do in databases. I think there's a thing called fsync gate. So in any case, we've been working on that. That's been looking at how do we get our message log, which is our write-ahead log, into the form that we need. So we've been making improvements there and making improvements correctness so that if you restart your database, we basically look at it as a Merkle tree, and we verify that no bits have been flipped in the entire database.
So next we have the multi-column index support. Do you want to kind of maybe explain, I guess, why that's important and kind of how that works into the modules?
Yeah, so this is a super important one. We've been working on this one for a long time. When we first slapped SpacetimeDB together, essentially, we, for simplicity, said that you could only apply an index to a single column. It was just easier. So that would be like if I had a name or if I had an age or whatever, you could look things up by their age or their name in our indexes. Now you can do that for multiple columns. So if you have like an XZ coordinate, which by the way we do in Bitcraft, you can understand where the motivation for this came from. You can now look things up by their dual coordinates, so X and Z, or a name and an age, or whatever you want to do. You can index both of those and then put them out there. I believe we still have to add this to the documentation. Yeah, we'll have to get that in there. But that is now available. So very exciting to have that. Super important for Bitcraft's performance. Obviously, you can imagine looking things up by their location is critical.
Yep, definitely. So then the fourth item we have on here is switch to Wasmtime execution engine. Do you want to maybe talk about like what we were on before and why we switched?
Yeah, so we were on Wasmer. For those of you who don't know, obviously there's many different types of execution engines that you can use for executing actual WebAssembly code. Previously, we were on Wasmer. We switched essentially for a couple of reasons. One is performance. We saw some better numbers for performance slightly with Wasmtime. The next one is basically stability issues that we were having when running with perf on Mac was an issue with Wasmer that we were running into. And the next one is that the memory model of Wasmtime allows us to be a little bit more flexible in what we do to copy memory in and out of WebAssembly. And then the final, I would say, and also most important one is that we can get much more in the way of performance profiling and debug information out of Wasmtime. It's set up better for that way. So considering we were focusing this release on making sure we could profile appropriately not only the code inside SpacetimeDB, but also the code inside our WASM modules, this was a critical change that we had to make, and I think you all are going to love the stuff that we can do with this.
Excellent. And then this fifth point, I think, can't really be understated, but significant performance improvements. So I think there were quite a lot of them in various areas of SpacetimeDB. I guess, is there any area of performance change that you think was particularly impactful for this release?
Well, I mean, you were working on this one as well, so if you want to give your take, that'd be great.
So there's like a couple of different areas. The main one that I think that we made the most improvements on is probably going to be the subscription query execution, which has been definitely an effort across multiple different team members. But basically, a lot of the performance issues that we've had in terms of scaling Bitcraft up has been having so many people connected to SpacetimeDB, and processing those initial subscription queries has been basically what I would consider the primary bottleneck for getting more people connected to SpacetimeDB. So actually improving the performance of that initial subscription query has helped immensely. I don't have like a specific number, but it is probably like, I want to say between like 2 to 5x faster, maybe even faster than that. So that has been one of the major areas that we've improved in terms of performance. And then we have just a footnote at the bottom here. So currently much of our effort is focused around improving performance and stability with the goal of launching the mainnet in April of next year. I don't know if you want to expand on that at all, or...
Sure. Well, as I mentioned just now, performance stability is super, super critical for that. It's the thing that we're focused on primarily because this is the first time that people are going to be able to use it, so they can't have it crashing. They can't have it slow. They need their data to be there. They don't want to have to rewrite their ABIs. This is a super important part of what we want to do.
Excellent. I think we'll probably be focused over the next couple of weeks as well, improving the documentation, because I think there's quite a few things missing that we've added in previous releases that I think the documentation is a little lacking right now. So we will probably also be focused a lot on improving our documentation, making the UX of that much better as well. So that's our release of 0.8.0. Thank you for watching. And if you like this sort of content, definitely consider subscribing to our YouTube channel. Check out our Discord. We'll have that in the description down below. And check out the GitHub as well. The SpacetimeDB source code is available on GitHub for anybody to see. So go there, check us out, and drop us a star if you have time. So thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.